Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the live reality games coverage of Surviving Bloomington Season 6, Order versus Chaos, and happy Valentine's Day. I'm so glad for all of you watching, joining us to discuss the love of my life, Survivor, specifically Surviving Bloomington. And I am joined, as always, by Steven. Hi, Steven.
I got so excited for a second. I thought I was going to love your life, but clearly no, the show takes precedence.
Stephen, this was a very interesting episode for both of us, to say the least. I'm very interested to talk about it. How are you feeling?
As one of the players who got voted off this episode, there was a lot of nervousness in knowing that, all right, this is an episode where I get voted off. And now I'm not out of the game. There's still redemption, but there's a lot of nervousness coming to this episode. And it took me 2 attempts to watch it, and it was better than expected. So I really was making probably more of a mountain out of a molehill, and that's good. So I'm feeling pretty decent.
Good. I'm glad. I think that the dynamics that happen in this episode in regards to the moves that players are making have crazy. Like, there's so much happening right now on this season. I think that we just have to dive in and kind of break it down, because I sent you my little bullet list of things that I want to talk about for this one, and we have a lot to discuss. So,
because what's fun about this episode is that, we have that Marshawn tribal council, right? Yep. And that's kind of the first. I'm not saying that we didn't have blindsides in the original Digging Test, but it's the first real upset of the order of tribe dynamics.
Yes.
Right? Because you have Red turning on their own, and here in this episode, we have John and Rachel uniting and taking me out, and then in original Chaos, you, Brady, Tyler, and Seth, you have to turn on your own finally. So it's all interesting decisions. Really get to see a lot of the politics versus sorry, us versus them. You have to go because you're not my original color.
Yes, and all of that starts with our challenge. The episode launches us right into this challenge where we have a 3-way tug of war, and based on my discussions with Casey, originally this challenge was going to be a first to 2 points or first to 3 points wins.
Really?
I think we would have actually died if he had done that, because even that one round took everything out of us. That challenge was extremely physically demanding. I remember when the challenge ended, we all kind of fell down onto the ground and just laid for a few minutes. I know that there's some clips shown of Danny and Mackenzie and Daddy Matt kind of laying down after the challenge. We all were on the ground, and Casey was screaming at production, "Bring them water, bring them water." We were exhausted. What was that challenge like for you, Stephen?
I wish we got a time count from Casey of how long that tug of war actually lasted, because when you're doing it, it's an eternity. It drags on forever. But from an outside perspective, was it a minute? Was it 3 minutes? Was it 5 minutes? I have no clue.
In the moment, it felt like an eternity, because when you play tug of war, you assume it's just like arm strength. But it's not. You have to use your legs. You have to stay balanced. You have to use your core. Your entire body weight goes into that. It's every muscle in your body from the first pull. And it was rough.
I don't agree with Kim's strategy. I think once you're on the ground, you're not helping your team very much anymore.
I said this in our group chat. I love Kim so much, but watching Kim fall repeatedly was just really funny to me. I'm sorry. It just was. Yeah, so we, the players, find out before this challenge that 2 tribes are going to tribal. So it's the first tribe to have someone on their tribe holding the rope and touching their tribe board at the same time will win. How did you expect the challenge to go?
So on the yellow tribe, and I was texting with John and Matt, and I don't know if I talked with Rachel about what we're saying, but we basically said as a tribe, who would we rather lose to? All right, if we're gonna lose, who would we rather lose to? Because 2 of us are in the tribal council, so if we know we're gonna lose, we can at least choose the winner, right? And for us, we were we'd rather lose the red. We'd rather lose the red because Mackenzie and Big Matt are on there. We don't want to push that dynamic and seeing what happens at a 2-2. And at least for me, I had no connections outside of doing a podcast with you, Drew. I had no connections to you, Tyler, Seth, or Brady. And so I was like, if we have a choice, let's send that blue tribe back to tribal council. And so we discussed and say, hey, push comes to shove, if we have to throw, this is who we'll throw it to. So that's what we talked about going into it.
Yeah, our tribe, when we saw it was tug of war, we kind of grouped up and we were like, yeah, we're winning this. We felt like we had overall maybe the strongest tribe physically. Our decision-making process was like, okay, we have the strongest tribe. Let's put Tyler in the back because he has the longest legs to reach back. And let's put Seth in the front because he's the shortest. That was literally the only. And then we just discussed like alternating who's on which side of the rope, so we didn't step on each other a lot. But I don't know. Did you guys have any other kind of planning before the challenge?
Not that I recall. I know I was in the back as well for my reach, so that was definitely a consideration. Things I wish I had thought about. We'll talk about Amy's.
I want to talk about Amy's question.
That's important. Well. So this is minor. You don't see it. My other shoe breaks in the middle of the challenge, and oh yeah. So my shoe breaks, and that causes me to go down in the challenge because like when your shoe's like you have no traction, and so I wish I had taken my shoes off that challenge, and that might. I don't know. I don't think that would have made a world of difference, but me following certainly didn't contribute to the war effort.
Right. So we as players find out in the real time before the challenge starts that Mackenzie is finally using her challenge advantage. And the way that this worked in the real time was from the center of the rope, it was measured out distance-wise how far the boards were from the middle. With Mackenzie's challenge advantage, the other two tribes, so the yellow tribe and the blue tribe, the boards were flipped back one more time, which was about a 2-foot space difference, which is pretty significant. And then as the challenge plays out, we see that the blue tribe, my tribe, gets very, very close to winning. And yellow, seemingly John, leading, decides to swing over to pull against blue and then eventually throws to red. What was that decision-making process like in the real time?
So I don't recall. I think it was John making the call saying swing red or go red or something like that. And we were just like, yep, we know what we're doing. And we pull towards red. And red is not expecting it, right? And we'll show a secret scene where they're kind of like, what was that just now? That was what we kind of discussed. And so when John makes a call, we're like, yep, we know what we're doing. Let's go, because red, half their members were on the ground. And I don't know the physics or whatnot, but we were not winning. I felt we could not win or stop you from winning with red on the ground like that.
What it felt like to me in the real time, in my head, I had immediately just discounted red as like, well, we're beating them. So really what we need to worry about is yellow. And it just seemed like y'all were not working together well.
Okay.
I don't know if it was because people kept falling. And like on my team, me, Seth, and Tyler were not falling. So we had that constant, like at least 3 of us up. I don't know. But I do want to talk about what if Mackenzie had not used her challenge advantage. If Mackenzie did not use her challenge advantage, we would have won. Unless yellow had decided to throw it earlier than they did in the real time. Blue tribe, my tribe, was for a majority of that challenge. Tyler was where our board had started. We would have won. I strongly believe that we would have won that one if the advantage was not used to move the boards back. Again, that's assuming yellow does not throw the challenge
early.
Steven, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think if the board been closer, maybe it would have been over with before we even realized, and we would never have the chance to throw. But because it was farther back and it just lasted longer, that gave us enough. It's like, okay, we're more comfortable making that call because we don't see us winning at this point.
Right.
I think the other thing is, it was frustrating for me in game having Mackenzie play that advantage against me, But I was like, man, if only that advantage had been played in that third round, and we would have been on even for that immunity challenge, then I don't need to worry about this advantage coming back to haunt me. And it kind of does here, but not in a bad way, because at that point we're like, we're losing anyways. But
can we show Daddy Matt's comment followed directly by Casey's comment?
So, Big Matt, Drew thinks he should have won every challenge.
It's not that I think I should have; it's that I think we would have.
And then Casey's saying, can confirm Blue would have won. We didn't catch it on camera, but Tyler was like inches from touching the blue mat.
Yeah, we were close the whole time. I think it's just a combination of our tribe just worked well together, and we did not fall a lot.
Well, because I think you fall when the falling comes from when you get tugged forward and unexpectedly when you lose ground, and we were not pulling you all forward very much. I mean, it was at the very end when the two tribes together unite against you, then you start seeing blue tumble. But as long as you are pulling back, like, you aren't falling, and we were falling because we were losing ground in that sense, but it just becomes worse as a result.
Right. So ultimately we do see yellow throw the challenge so red can win, and sending blue and yellow to tribal council. What I would like to talk about is what we see in the episode and the edit of this challenge. Very polarizing on people's opinions on this. I know I've talked with Casey in depth about this edit. We launch right into the challenge. We don't get any audio from the challenge. We see sort of a compilation with this music on top of it. I don't even know how I would describe the music.
It's calm. It's a more calm, pensive, kind of piano-ish piece.
Yeah. So the first time I watched this, when I watch these episodes, I watch with my best friend Nathan, and we watch over Discord together because we're long distance best friends. And there's no explanation given up front that two tribes are going to tribal, and there's no explanation given up front that Mackenzie used the challenge advantages. Those are both shown after the challenge. When I first watched this challenge, I was like, what's going on? What are we doing? Because experiencing this challenge in person, it was so intense. It was, like I said earlier, very physically draining. When I first watched, my thought was I would have liked to have seen that play out. I would have loved the setup of two tribes are going to tribal, the setup of Mackenzie using the challenge advantage. What I will say, though, upon second watching, seeing this intense game of tug of war with the calm music on top of it, I was laughing hysterically the whole time. It just was like a meme almost to me of like the juxtaposition. I don't know. My two best friends, Nathan and one of my other best friends, Derek, they had completely opposite reactions to this. One of them loved it. The other one hated it. I kind of fall in the middle now. Steven, what were your thoughts on this edit?
So I'm trying to think about two ways. One is me as a player, right? For me as a player, that was a very intense do or die experience where you're throwing it all out in an attempt to win. And everyone's gassed and on the ground afterwards. And the music was was not in harmony with that, like my experience of that moment.
Which to me is hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, and for me, it's like there's a term for it. I'm just blanking on it. But there was a little discordant from my personal experience. So I'm wondering, if I wasn't a player and I didn't have that experience in the moment, how my perception or saying of that would be different. And I'm trying to. I should have asked Casey, the inspiration for it, because Casey has when we've talked to him, he has music in mind as he's seeing this happen, like both from the editing process, but also live as it occurs. And so I think he'll be curious. I should have asked, what's inspired this in a sense of the kind of layer on this very polar style music to this very intense experience, and maybe because I don't know. I'm trying to put it to words, and I probably should have done a better job beforehand.
In my current stance on this is not CBS Survivor. This is Surviving Bloomington. This is a product created and run and edited by Casey. And Casey is not trying to make episodes that emulate CBS Survivor. Casey is making episodes that are Surviving Bloomington. And with that being done, Casey gets the creative liberty and is creating the episodes that he wants, not only for himself, but also for the viewers. So in talking to Casey about this, Casey's kind of like, yeah, like you're not always going to get all the information up front as a viewer of 2 tribes are going to tribal. The challenge advantage was used. You're not always going to get what you expect. And I love that we are taking, again, I say we a lot. You see this in confessionals. I say we a lot when I mean either me or someone else. I love that Casey is making these decisions. Not everyone's going to like them all the time, but I love that he's making the decisions. And where I stand on it now is I think it's hilarious. I love it.
Well, I'm seeing in the chats that other people are kind of with the humor aspect of it.
Yes.
Just that you have such a wild juxtaposition of this intense game with this very calming music.
Well, and I think the other thing is the music cue that he used, like the specific piece that he used, is recurring throughout the episode. And I think that that's also I love that creative decision. But at the end of the day, Casey makes the episodes that he wants to watch. And that's what we get. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I'm still thinking this as a literary text and how to unwrap and analyze it as a text, but we should probably move on before I go deeper into that.
Yes. So we do see in this episode, we get a lot from the Yellow Spez tribe. We get a lot from Blue, from the Dignitas tribe. We don't get anything from Hospitium.
It's the winner's curse.
It's the winner's curse, unfortunately. Will the winner be on the Hospitium tribe? Who's to say? But with that being said, we do actually have a secret scene that Casey has for us of the Hospitium tribe. So let's see what was not shown in the episode.
So how do you feel about that last challenge?
Okay, that last challenge was rough. We went into it, we immediately saw it was tug of war, and like, we're pretty self-aware. We were like, okay, we're the least capable of this. But I had the advantage, and when Kim used her advantage, it was huge. She like didn't need to be blindfolded for her thing. They were like 3 balls ahead of us, and they like blew us out of the water. I used mine, they're like, oh, just like move it like an inch back. I was like, okay, it's not. I was like, we literally all went in with the mindset of like, we're probably not gonna win, but like, let's not give up. And that's what we did. We did not give up. We had this like strategy to pull and then like jolt forward, like in Squid Games, and it didn't work. But then we just pulled very consistently hard, and I will say we started kind of pulling against Blue with Yellow, and at one point, I think it was John said, Red, go. And I turned back to the team. I said, go. And so we ran, and I think Yellow let us have it. And Blue thinks Yellow let us have it too. They were very vocal about that. But that's super cool because I really would still like to work with John and Matt. And I now have a reason to get the other 2 red people to trust John and Matt, because if that was their intention, like that's the reason we are all still here. So I feel really solid. Kim keeps telling me I'm her number 1 now, which is sick, except I think Kim has a really hard time lying, and I feel like that might like bite us in the ass. Like we were gonna boat home Marshawn, and she immediately she told us she was gonna tell him, and I was like, you play your game, I'm not gonna stop you. She told him, and then he immediately started scrambling, and that makes me nervous for the game going forward. I really like Danny. If I could do like a me, Daddy Matt, Danny, Kim, John, and Matt, I think we'd have the numbers. My only I mean, you never know like what advantages are out there. My insecurity about that is if we share a plan with Kim, she shares the plan with Red, and then it gets flipped. If we are working with Kim, I would like to tell her plans sort of last minute. she's a very emotional person, and we bonded over that. So am I. I just have like an ability to like lie and be a little bit more cutthroat. So that's where I'm at right now. I feel great.
Well, I feel great because sorry, I thought there was supposed to be. I definitely thought we were gonna really, really lose. But fake it till you make it, and we did, and we won, and yeah, I think that we just kept trying. That is, I think, really that's one of my strengths. Like, I don't give up. I feel like I was on the ground more than not during that challenge, and eventually I was like, oh, it's just more effective for me to just like be like on my knees pulling because I'm gonna keep falling and my gravity will be better. But yeah, we just won. Yellow, blue was really close to it, but because we were kind of on similar sides and yellow would have had to pull further. I think that as we gained more, yellow decided they wanted to help us. And that was great and definitely helped us win. And I'm a little curious if the comments made prior to the challenge about, chaos versus order sticking together impacted that, because we did vote out someone who was initially on chaos.
So Seth, what's going through your head seeing the makeup of the new teams and who got voted out?
Yeah, so on yellow, I mean, we knew that original chaos was down in numbers. Rachel, I'm happy to see you here. I'm sad to see Melanie gone. Yeah, it's really interesting to see a chaos gone from the team that had the numbers up, but I also trust my fellow chaoses over there, and I trust that either they had a plan or something went sideways and they worked with what they had. So
Yeah, someone mentions that he's surprised about Marchand leaving. Do you have any thoughts about what happened on the other two teams or response to that?
No, not really.
Some folks on the blue team made it clear that they, I don't know if they loved it, but I don't care. So
once we got back from the challenge, they were saying that the yellow team, specifically John, had screamed, "Go red!" Where I was in the back, so I'm yanking. Next thing I know, my foot's on the mat and we win immunity, and it felt so good because I think everyone underestimated us. But now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, why would yellow help us? They're gonna vote off Rachel. So I think Rachel's gonna get cut here, and then there's the three boys, Matt, Steven, and John. And then I think on the 4 blue, Brady and Drew are very close, and I would hope for my own game Seth and Tyler would become close and like duke it out in a 2-2 or whatever. But I'll be interested to see what happens on blue. I think it's very, very, very strange to me that after watching Marchand be eliminated, they are at the challenge preaching red strong, red strong, red strong, when Marchand was the person saying that, and now Marchand is on the pre-jury. So don't ruin my game and don't sink my ship because you think that I'm just going to jump with you. I can't wait to get to merge and hear what everybody has to say, but I don't want to get cocky. I feel like I'm in the middle right now and I have a lot of options on where I want to go.
I don't know where that would be. Okay.
Oh my god, I'm a flyaways. And your name is Ethan, right? Yes. Okay, I'm Danny.
That was fun. I love that.
So like the 3 things that stand out to me is Mackenzie doesn't know who I am or want to work with me still.
Same.
Second, that I love Kim just saying I don't care what they think. And third, Danny nails it on the head what really happened.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's really interesting to hear Danny's commentary on original Chaos Strong, because I guess the perception was that the four of us on blue were like, yeah, original chaos strong. When I think really it was just mostly Seth, who was like, let's go chaos strong, chaos strong. Whereas me, Tyler, and Brady, you don't hear us in that conversation. And that's because we kept our mouths shut, because we know that staying original chaos strong through the whole game is not an option. Whereas I think players like Marshawn and Seth, who might be a little less experienced with LRGs, that's the easy strategy to go with.
Well, and you hear about more in the episode with the potential. If we merge after this vote, we can potentially see five order and 5 chaos. And what will that look like? And we'll need to have all the weapons at our disposal. Brady with her keys, maybe John with his keys, to battle each other at that merge if it is travel lines. And for me, that was something I was strongly considering at this point. It's like, I don't know the chaos players, right? And so like I want to have as many allies as possible into the merge, and like having some sort of parity seems like a gift.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we get from Mackenzie. Is Mackenzie doesn't know the four of us that are on blue. So Mackenzie's like, well, I'll just use my tribe that I have now and my old alliance and just mesh them together, and we'll just run it at the merge. Like, yeah, of course that makes sense from her perspective. Just like with Danny from their perspective, where Danny's like, yeah, like I'm in the middle because Danny has original chaos plus the current tribe. So it makes sense. I understand that. I guess I never really thought about it until seeing that clip. The four of us who are currently on the blue tribe, we don't have that option.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the middle.
Well, yeah, because you voted out Jamie.
Exactly. Yep.
I mean, and that's something like definitely that. How did we walk in that trial account? Let's say we walk into that round. Big Matt's gone, but Jamie's there. We don't throw. Yellow tribe, we don't throw, because at that point we're more agnostic to who wins, because it is what it is. Especially because Jamie seems to be better set up, and so like it would be very different if Jamie was still in your tribe at that point.
Yeah, I absolutely love this scene. I love getting to hear from those players and where they're currently at in terms of their plans. Will those plans come to fruition? We will see.
3-person tribal council, 3-person tribal council. So excited.
Well, could be a 1-1-1. You never know. But I guess in their minds, Rachel is going out here. So let's talk about the Yellow Spez tribe. So we start off with this long confessional, this long segment from Rachel, where Rachel is kind of like, yeah, I don't know how to feel right now, because I'm feeling like there's some kind of something going on with John and I, but also like these 3 guys have been together the whole time. So I just need to go talk to people and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so I think something to note that this confessional, I think it's, from what it seems, is very early in the round. Like this is probably one of her first confessionals following the challenge. So a lot of the strategy hasn't evolved yet. She's really, from what I can tell, processing like, what are my options and where can I go? You know, John and I have some history. Are we going to actualize and actually work together for the first time ever? Steven is saying he'd go to the Rocksmith. Is that true? I feel okay about little Matt. And like, I think she, not my quote of the episode, but she says something to the tune of like, one of these suitors needs to go. Which one do I get rid of? And I thought that was a fun turn of phrase.
I think Rachel, this episode, has really emerged as a player who has a lot of different layers to her, because
like an onion.
Yeah, like an onion.
Are you saying Tyler's competition?
We'll talk about Tyler soon enough. Rachel, this episode is this interesting combination of like, she says like one of these suitors has to go and I just have to decide which one, which she's putting herself in this power position. But then we also see from her that she's terrified that she's going out. So I just think that that's such an interesting like duplicity. I don't know. And then
I mean, that's a very valid fear, right? You just
it is, yeah. Oh, I mean, you see it from me this episode, and my name isn't even thrown out by anyone other than myself. So I don't know. So we see Rachel and John talk. I think John does a really good job this round of placating everyone. and telling everyone that their plans are what's going to happen. I don't know, Stephen, what was your personal experience in discussions with John this round? Because that's kind of one of the next conversations we see. We get like your confessional, and then we get you and John talking.
Yeah, so my coming to this round, my question is, am I voting John or Rachel? And at this point, I'm feeling really solid with little Matt. And I feel like wherever he goes, I want to go. And we have a discussion, two of us, like, what are you thinking? And I think it's not the first conversation, the second time we solidify that we want to go with John. All right. And so therefore, my strategy is tell Rachel, John's throwing her name out, tell John, Rachel's throwing his name out, try to pit the two against each other and make sure my name's on the mix and work with John and vote out Rachel. And so make Rachel really think I'm going to be with her, but not.
I think something interesting that you say in this round is that you, Matt, and John are like a locked-in three. You've been together since the beginning, and you all trust each other, but you don't know quite where you lie within the three.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this confessional is from the previous round or this current. I don't know. But I felt very uneasy as a John, Matt, me trio because I didn't know, like, it was like, who's strong, who's tighter. I wasn't quite sure. And one thing that really solidifies for me, and I think I started feeling tighter with Matt, having more open conversation with Matt about John, because like for me, like you hear this a little bit from the last episode. I'm like, I don't feel like John's giving me what I need as an ally. Like I don't feel like he's disclosing things. And then this episode comes and John does a lot of disclosure and tells me a lot of things and really like he does all the right things and really sells me. I'm like, John really does trust me, and I'm down the roll with him deep in this game. And so he really wins me over. And one of the ways he does it is he tells me that one of the scrolls he finds, his little quest, the quest he finds, if he votes wrong, he gets an idol.
Which is quite an exaggeration, because what the scroll actually said was that if he voted wrong, he gets a key.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah, which would have put him at 5. He's telling everyone that he currently has 3.
Yep.
He actually has 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's great gameplay. John says this round that he's playing one of the best social games. I think that John definitely has played the best social game on his current tribe. Now, overall, I don't know. But on that tribe, I think absolutely so.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that lie. I think so. I get voted out, and what do you think the first thing I do when I reach redemption is? I tell everyone John has an idol.
Yeah.
And I think that like because there's knowledge that like, oh, this is a quest for a key. But like I tell everyone there like he has an idol, and there's a threat that knowledge will walk into the game where people are going to think that he has an idol when he doesn't. All right, and so I think he probably could have still sold me if he just said, hey, if I do this, I get a key. But because he says there's an idol, we do a lot of strategizing around it. And like, do we tell little Matt? No, we don't. We'll ask for forgiveness afterwards. We do a lot of talking about that, both with him and me.
Did you ever consider just asking him to see the paper?
No.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to determine, do you want to push it or not?
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're telling this, but do I trust you? And for me, I'm like, John is coming out and telling me this. I'm just like, and for me, it's like, why would you lie to someone about potentially having an idol? That is such dangerous information. So much more dangerous than getting a key. But it works. I don't tell Matt. I don't tell Rachel. And we strategize a lot. And I feel really good and comfortable with John and very willing to go deep in the game with him as a result of all the work he does on me this round.
Well, and it makes sense that you would have trusted him because up until this point, you have no reason not to.
Yep.
Now, we as viewers see in confessionals that pre-swap, John is concerned about you because of podcast beef, alleged podcast beef. And so we see that kind of come to fruition in this round. But from your perspective as a player in the game, you have no reason to distrust him.
And I can't fault John because we get scenes in the music. Do I work with John or do I target John? What do I do? Like, how do I want to go forward with John? I'm not like dead set, like, yes, John, ride or die. I'm definitely not that way, at least in my confessionals where I'm really kind of processing, like, how do I want to do this going forward? And for me, a big turning point was Marshawn going home, Big Matt staying. It's like, oh, wow, I really do want to roll with both John and Matt now because that keeps potentially 5 order in merge. And I feel that would be beneficial for me.
Right. And we really don't see much from Matt as far as his decision making. We don't get a confessional from him this round. I just don't know quite why John would have not told Matt. I guess from John's perspective, if John tells Matt that he and Rachel want to vote you out, the risk is that Matt then goes and tells you. But then if he tells you, John just plays the extra vote and you still go out 3-2. Whereas if he tells Matt and Matt's like, yeah, we'll go for it, you go out 3-1 instead.
I think a couple things could have happened, right? I think Matt and I were closer than John and Matt, right? So I think that is an astute call on his part. It's like, no, let's keep Matt in the dark. But because I just couldn't fathom John would do that. I assumed like if John makes a plan against me, he'll tell Matt, and I will, right? And so like that's why I'm so shocked when it's a 3-2 vote. I'm just like, how did this happen? 3 things. One, I think little Matt could have told me, and I play my shot in the dark. He tells me, and then we both go and we work on John and Trugman. It's like, you do not want to do this. He tells me, but votes for me and says, play your shot in the dark, see what happens. Or he just goes with the plan, or he learns it and says, I'm going to have to cut Steven, and I guess this is how, because I survive and he doesn't. All right, so there have been some options available. But yeah, if John is going to play the extra vote with Rachel, he doesn't need to, and maybe the thread, the extra vote, gets Matt the total line. He can keep the keys. I don't know.
Right. And I think the way that it played out makes for the best entertainment, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does.
Unfortunately for you, it does. Amy's comment saying the editing is so good. I completely agree. I know what I'm trying to say. John deserves an Emmy for this episode with his acting. Because
he should play poker.
Yeah. He tells both you and Rachel exactly what you need to hear. His answers at Tribal are perfectly vague. Hats off to John for pulling off the move that he wanted to. Is it the best move for him to have made? I guess we can't really know until we see more episodes. Mm-hmm. But I think the dynamic now of the 3 people left on the Yellow Tribe is incredibly awkward, and I love it.
Yeah, I think on one hand, so let's look at John. So John nets a key from Rachel, so he gets Rachel's key, right? And so he's able to get a discount extra vote in a sense. Downside, he's now used his keys for an extra vote, and we don't know how contentious the potential merge will be and how necessary those keys will be and how much he'll want them at the time, right? And so there's some questions. So there's that whole question, was voting me out the most, was that best for his long-term interest? We don't know until we see how the game progresses. He's isolated Little Matt to an extent, right? Because Little Matt was not part of the vote, and there's going to be fallout from that. But he won Rachel as an ally, and maybe has more of an inroad with Chaos Tribe, considering he just saved Rachel, and we know he has Tyler as a person you can work with at the very minimum.
Well, we also have to remember something that's really important is at some point there's going to be someone coming back from Redemption Island. And John has actively been a part of 5 people who are currently on Redemption being voted out of the 8 that are there. So that could be something, especially with you going in and immediately being like, John has an idol. So that's something that will be interesting to see play out when Redemption Island happens, if John is still in the game at that time, or if John goes to Redemption, how that will play out with the other people that are there that he has voted out. I do have, so John and I were talking a lot about this episode, and John sent me a text about more of an outline of kind of his decision-making process. So I wanted to read that. I told him that I would read it, and he gave me the okay to. So until further notice, I am John. I could never pull off being John, but in this moment, I am John. I'm speaking on behalf of John. So John says, insight on my vote. I knew Matt would stay loyal, but Steven, I felt, was ready to get my keys at any moment. I still had that podcast beef in my head before I even arrived, but then I actually loved Steven as a person. So by that round, when I blindside him, it was more that I need to get him before he gets me. And if Rachel gives me her key, then I know she's with me and I want her as my number. I want her as my number one alongside Mackenzie. I wanted to be with Mackenzie and Rachel at the end. I felt in my heart Steven was on the fence, so I made up the story about the idol and only told him to make him feel like he was included in my plans. I already had 4 keys and didn't need Rachel's, but I wanted the key from Rachel so I knew I could trust her. Also, I was nervous that Matt wouldn't trust me, so I was going to tell him the truth about the keys instead of the idol. Also, saving Rachel gives us some type of capital that we have to play with old chaos. So I guess for John, just like outlining all those things, it's like, yeah, if I can get a key from Rachel, not only can I trust her, but also I have inroads with chaos. I was iffy on Steven, even though I liked him and this podcast thing was in my head. I just didn't want to risk him because he had me as a bounty. Matt, I can just fix that relationship later. I'm not worried about
it. One thing I wish, and this is a silly thing, but like reshuffling the bounties at the swap would make the game very different, right? Because maybe I still end up with John as a bounty, but it's more of a secret at this point, or who knows? And that may have changed destinies if in that case. Because I think, as we mentioned last week, the only other match bounty is Seth has you as a bounty on your tribe.
Yep, not a concern. No, I do think if bounties were reshuffled at the swap, that makes the Jamie vote a little bit more complicated because we see Jamie lead me to that key, that advantage. Where,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and because I had Kim, and like I said in the last episode, like my bounty is not only immune, but also not on my tribe. So if I had a bounty that was on my tribe that was not Jamie, I may have been more inclined to keep Jamie. And obviously that's, I guess, other people on my tribe, Seth, Tyler, and Brady, would have had similar perspectives. Like it incentivizes them more if they have non-Jamie bounties. But so, yes, we get to tribal. Anything else pre-tribal?
No.
We get to tribal. Casey asks, typical swap questions. Rachel, do you feel in danger? And Rachel gets the Emmy alongside John for this episode because Rachel went in defending herself, saying why she needed to stay in. And I liked that her reasons were not only, well, a bunch of women have been voted out, so you guys should not vote out another woman. But she also laid out strategically how it would be beneficial. She made the emotional plea to John that we saw leading up to tribal about like, I could never vote you out. It'd be too hard for me. I think Rachel absolutely killed this tribal council. Do you remember how you were feeling about Rachel's answers to these questions in the moment?
No.
Yeah, tribal's kind of a blackout situation.
I think I'm the unenviable position of being the first one to respond to her questions. But beyond that, no, I don't remember how I was feeling in the moment.
Yeah, I think Rachel did a great job. John does a good job of answering questions vaguely. Pretty quiet tribal from Matt.
Yeah, if you're looking for more Matt content, there will be secret scenes released with that Matt content we've been looking for. So get excited.
So we get to the vote, and in a 4-person tribe, we get 5 votes. We get
really surprised me.
Yeah, we get Steven, Rachel, Steven, and then a 5th Steven vote, and then immediately on standing up, good job, John, like good move. And then you zoom out, and Matt was left out of the vote,
which I did not know at the time. I was very confused about that vote. Right when I saw 2-2, I'm like, wait, are we gonna deadlock and draw again? But then the 3rd vote has, and at this point, I'm thinking John needs to vote wrong to get an idol, right? That's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, did John play an extra vote incorrectly, like on Rachel's, and then everyone else voted against me? And that's kind of what I was thinking would happen, because I couldn't fathom that Matt would be left out of the vote.
Yes, I also think John had an interesting strategy of intentionally spelling your name incorrectly. That way,
Well, that was intentional.
That way, he would know if it came up spelled correctly that Rachel voted the way that he thought. And I'm like, can you not just know which ones are your handwriting?
Fair, yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting strategy. And that's what we get from Yellow. Steven, do you have anything else to say about specifically this round for Yellow and for you?
Yeah, I've thought a long time about like what went wrong, and kind of like very much. I've wondered, like, I had no idea that John and Rachel had both pledged like we'll never vote for each other, and here I am trying to make them go against each other. Maybe that was the wrong call. Maybe like I was playing too aggressively, and I need to be a little bit more like Tyler, sit back and let things unfold, and maybe that nothing I've done would have made a difference at that point. Who knows?
I mean, from a viewer standpoint, not having experienced that, it just happened to be luck of the draw with the tribe swap of two people who had this previous connection, even though I think, so let me make sure I'm understanding this right. John and Rachel played in a season of the Mole together.
Yes.
Which is not a voting game. So you don't really need like super strong alliances in the same way that you do with Survivor. It's a different type of alliance.
Yes.
And then they played a Survivor game together that Mackenzie was also in, but John and Rachel were never on a tribe together, but Rachel and Mackenzie were on a tribe together.
And Rachel went out very early in that game, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess from their perspectives, they were both kind of like, yeah, we never got to play together, but we've always wanted to, so let's do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just luck of the draw, unfortunately. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Jamie and Melanie, where it's just like, wow, really unlucky draw there.
It was, but also more of like, John was looking to make a move, and Rachel was there to be able to enable it. So they were able to combine and work together nicely to make something happen.
Yes, and I'm very interested to see the fallout from this, especially from Matt's perspective. So I'm excited for that secret scene to come out where we get to hear from Matt. Steven, without talking too much about redemption, how was this pre-swap and swap experience for you overall in Bloomington?
Drew, I love going to every single tribal council I possibly can and never winning a challenge. It just warms my soul, losing frequently.
Listen, you guys threw tug of war. You could have won.
We were losing no matter what. We were not winning that. This Casey built it as a grueling pre-merge, and it met that challenge. I very rarely in these games do you get the opportunity to play in a tribe of 5 or 4 or even 3. Right, and that's just a whole different ball game. Especially when you start reaching like 13, 12, you're like, will we merge? You're like hoping, like, can we just fast track the merge, please, so I can have all this extra safety? And there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to run or hide in that game as a result. And so, it was challenging. I again wasn't feeling the best for it. So I don't know if that made a difference. I don't think it did. In the day, I certainly picked my outdoor shoes poorly, but I don't think that broke my game either. But it was a hard experience. It was a good experience. Made a lot of friends, and without saying more, the redemption that night at Redemption was pretty fantastic.
Wow. I'm so excited to see Redemption. So many people that I just want to see on my screen again.
Well, we get to see Nina, Alex, and Riley every episode. I don't know what you're talking about. But we even say, I think one of the things I loved is we had an updated intro credits. Right? Updated intro credits, and we got to see everyone who was at Redemption and the swap tribes too. And that I really appreciate it. So
I love that. I appreciated it so much. I think it was such a good decision by Casey to include that in the intro. Yes, there is a lot of speculation that I have heard in discussions with other viewers about when Redemption will be, and we'll find out.
I think the merge happens at the final 5, right? Isn't that how Survivor works?
Yeah, it's a grueling pre-merge. So we're going actually final 3, just final 3. 3 teams until then.
3 teams and 1 to 2 people. It's great. You'll love it.
Right. So definitely excited to see what redemption will entail. Also, something I just now thought about, this is the first episode where someone uses keys.
Yeah, it is. And for to buy an extra vote, nonetheless.
And it worked. It was a successful key play.
And extra votes are the strongest in a swap situation, especially with small tribes. I think that's when extra votes shine the most. I mean, let's say we merge next episode at 10. Maybe then extra votes will start mattering. But like, I feel like small tribes advantages really are powerful.
Yep. And unfortunately for me, I was not focused on collecting keys. I was focused on collecting things like bananas. But let's talk about who had Steven as their bounty.
Mackenzie.
Oh yeah, because she didn't know who you were, and also apparently didn't want to work with you.
I did a very bad job being on the people that Mackenzie wanted to work with list.
Yeah. Let's talk about Dignitas, the blue tribe. My tribe was a hot mess, and there's a lot that was not caught on camera this round. I was talking to KC. The major event of this round, unfortunately, was not caught on camera, so I'm excited to dive in. Highlights of this tribe that were shown. It seems like Tyler and I are kind of having a competition with each other to see who can be more delusional in this round. Because Tyler thinks he's winning the game. He is convinced, like, this game is mine. I'm playing the best social and strategic game. Like, every person wants me as their number one. And then for me, it's a different kind of delusion in that I am terrified from second one that everyone is ready to vote me out. And so Tyler and I are having a delusional off.
I'm going to push back on that. Like, so I thought this was a really good episode for Tyler, right? I mean, strategy-wise, we haven't had a sense of what he's doing, but this is the first time where it seems like it's really paid off, where he's been sitting back. You're saying, I want Tyler as my number one. No one's throwing his name out, right? Like, this is, like, call me crazy. It felt like what he's doing is finally paying dividends.
So I believe that I misspoke in my confessional and meant to say that I wanted to be Tyler's number one.
Okay.
Because no chance are me and Brady going to stop being number ones with each other.
I was wondering about that because, like, wow, like Drew is really bouncing around with who his number ones are. Like, no, Brady's.
I'm not Kim. I'm not changing my number one every episode. I'm not Kim. I am 95% sure that what I meant to say was I want to be Tyler's number one.
That we don't know about.
We get in the episode a clip of the end of the conversation that me and Tyler are having, where Tyler says that he appreciates me. I say back to him, and then I'm like, you're keeping me grounded. But we don't get the front of that conversation. This whole round, I'm extremely paranoid. I'm like, until this point, I've been immune every round. So I think it's natural that the first round that you're not immune, you get a little bit shaky. I got a lot of it shaky. And Tyler and I have this discussion where I'm freaking out to him and he's keeping me really calm. But I also, in that conversation, tell Tyler that the perception of him is that he's not playing the strategic side. Because what we've heard from Tyler in confessionals at this point is social, just like be around, listen, don't say much, just listen. And I'm like, Tyler, like, there's perception of you that you're not necessarily playing. So I was kind of able, I guess, to bring Tyler up, and Tyler was able to bring me down. And in that moment, we really bonded. And then I think I do my confessional after that, where I say that I want Tyler as my number one, because we really bonded. Tyler apparently does not feel the same way. We don't really get from him how he feels about me or about Seth.
We get the eye roll.
Yeah, we get. Tyler says that he wants to work with Brady, and we see the discussion between Tyler and Brady about handing off a key. But we don't get any short or long-term plans from Tyler other than just keep being social with people.
Yeah, so why isn't Tyler? So why Seth over Tyler. What
Okay.
was that decision like?
Okay, so we see Seth and I having a discussion where we're going through pros and cons of voting out Brady or Tyler. I'm not voting out Brady here. That's not an option for me. Brady is my number one and continued to be my number one.
Mm-hmm.
So with Seth, obviously, I'm going to push for Tyler to be the vote. And with Tyler, I'm going to push for Seth to be the vote.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of me and Seth's discussion, Seth says, yeah, I think we should vote out Brady. Immediately, this raises a red flag to me. I go to Brady and Tyler, who Tyler I have now bonded with. I say, hey, Seth is saying Brady's name. Brady's like, well, let me go talk to him. Brady goes and talks to Seth. And Seth tells Brady that Tyler threw out her name.
Mm-hmm.
We know this is a lie. Brady comes back to me and Tyler are like, this is a lie. So then Brady is mad, like very, very mad at Seth for lying to her face. We see a clip at camp where Brady's like, yeah, I'm really mad, but I have to keep it like, hey, like nice. Brady was infuriated with Seth for lying to her face. Brady even went back to double check with Seth, like, so you're saying 100% that Tyler is the one that threw out my name? And Seth is like, yes, it was Tyler who threw out your name. Because at this point,
you tried before, like
right. So at this point, what's happening is Seth is trying to pitch to Brady that Tyler's throwing her out, so they need to vote Tyler. Seth and Brady both think they're playing each other, and me and Tyler are kind of in the middle, like. So we get to tribal because I had bonded with Tyler and I was never voting out Brady. That was my decision-making process for voting out Seth. Brady was already going to vote Seth because of how mad she was at him. And Tyler is just kind of like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
So I think this is all your fault then, right? Because
I would argue that I may have had a hand in stirring the pot.
Yeah, because like I feel like that it sounds like that open discussion with you and Seth. If you had said, Seth's like, so let's do Brady, and said, no, let's do Tyler and trust me on this. I think it would have been the round would have been much smoother, or at very least you wouldn't have, Brady immediately say, yep, Seth needs to go. And you're like, yep, I'm with Brady.
In the moment, in game, I felt like, okay, Brady, my number one ally, is mad at Seth. And me and Tyler have just bonded. So let's just get rid of Seth because that'll be easy to do.
Yeah.
Like everyone is on board for that. Watching as a viewer, and I'm like, Tyler has no commitment to anyone. And Seth was clearly committed to me.
Yeah.
I misplayed this round in terms of this round, levels of trust. So not a great episode for me either.
Well, so at the time, like, did you kind of feel that both of them trust you equally, and you're like, it's irrelevant which one I keep because both of them are on board with
me? At the time, I thought that the three of them were going to vote me out. I had super inflated my target level in my head because I had put myself out there in challenges as this massive challenge performer. I was leading Original Chaos in the challenges alongside Kim. I had just won an individual immunity the round prior. So in my head, I'm biggest target walking on my tribe. So my thing this round, and I think I even say it in a confessional, is like, I need to figure out what other people's perceptions of me are.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I bonded with Tyler. Brady and I are still locked in. So in my head, I know Brady's not voting me out.
Yeah.
But Tyler and Seth, I'm iffy on. Tyler and I had just bonded. Brady's mad at Seth. I'm like, you know what? If it'll be an easy vote to get Seth out and it won't be me, let's just do that. Cool.
And so because I remember talking to Seth at Redemption that night. And so if Seth had maybe just played coy and say, hey, Drew, whatever you want, I'm going to follow it. I'm not going to name names, but you tell me where to go and I'll follow.
Steven, to be honest with you, I think I told Seth to make the call on it because I was like, I cannot afford to be the one throwing out names here. And so Seth is like, yeah, let's go. Like after weighing out all these pros and cons, because for me and Seth's perspective, and I say this as well later, in mine and Seth's perspective, Tyler is not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Brady is a very social player. So Seth's fear is that Brady at merge will have a wider net cast socially.
Yeah.
So Seth and I are afraid of Brady's social power. So Seth is like, let's go Brady. And I'm like, okay, sure, sounds good. Turn around, immediately run to Brady and Tyler. And I'm like, Seth wants to go for Brady. I don't want to do that. Brady confronts Seth. It's like, hey, I heard my name is kind of up. Seth says, yeah, Tyler threw it out. Brady comes back and is like, Seth is saying Tyler threw my name out. Tyler and I are like, no, absolutely not. It was Seth. Brady's mad at Seth. It's not me. Cool. Sounds good.
And also, Brady having 3 keys very publicly, but you're okay with that because you and Brady are close.
Right. Yeah. I at this point have zero doubt that Brady's with me. Tyler offers to give Brady a key. I think one thing that Tyler does really well is he's like, I can give it to you now. I can give it to you later. It doesn't matter to me, which I think was good because if you say like, oh yeah, I'll give it to you later, don't worry about it. That's a little bit more iffy than like, yeah, I can give it to you now if you want. And Brady's like, don't worry about it. So we get to tribal. I don't know, Steven, anything else pre-tribal that you found interesting? We get the confessional where Tyler says that this game is his. Because he's playing this like super social game. Which I'm kind of like, yeah, you had a good round this round, but up until this round, what are we doing, Tyler? And then
I guess 3 things. First, you were in a lot of conversations, right? So you were very active in all the strategy talks that we saw. Like, so often you were one of the major parties. So that was interesting to see. It was interesting hearing the discussions about a 5-5 merge and what that meant. And so you started hearing that. And then finally, the question, like, how upset or angry were people about that loss from the challenge?
Seth was mad. So I don't know if you remember when Casey called that Red had won, Seth, we were all like down on the ground exhausted. Yeah. Seth is like up, like that is, they threw it, they cheated, this is unsportsmanlike. Like Seth was mad in this challenge, like at the call. And basically Casey was like, yeah, no one said they couldn't do that. And Seth was just mad because he felt like it was unsportsmanlike. Meanwhile, me and Brady are sitting on the ground like, so are we voting out Seth or Tyler here? Like, what are we doing? I was just kind of like, yeah, that's how life goes. I'm terrified my name's going to get written down 3 times, but that's life. And you hear me say in confessional, like, yeah, they might be all ganged up against me, but worse things have happened.
Well, it's nice when you have someone really close, let's say Matt or Brady, to help, let you know when those plans happen. But sometimes those other ones are left out of the plans and they're equally blindsided.
Unfortunately, so yeah. I mean, we heard in this clip that we showed of the secret scene where Danny's like, I hope for my game it's like Drew and Brady versus Seth and Tyler, and I just don't think that Seth and Tyler ever really clicked like that. Yeah. I say at Tribal that the 4 of us were very close. We were telling each other throughout the day constantly. One of my big things is team building. Like, I want my alliance to be super strong. I'm a very loyal player to my allies. I might steal bananas on the side, but that has nothing to do with loyalty. So my big thing was throughout the day, I'm reiterating to these people, like, I appreciate you. You hear me say that to Tyler. You hear me say in Tribal, I love these people. I tell them all the time, like, in every individual conversation, like, hey, I really appreciate you having my back. I love that we're allies. Like, I'm so glad we're on a team together. That's one of my big things. But I think that me and Brady were the glue between Seth and Tyler. I don't think that they ever really clicked as like super tight allies.
Well, Seth really wanted to work with you, and Tyler was not looking to make overtures with Seth.
Yeah, I think what it came down to is, for me, this was an anyone but me round. Anyone but me and Brady. Brady's mad at Seth, so that's an easy way to go. Tyler and I had just clicked, so Tyler and Brady clearly had something going on. So it just kind of aligned, like Tyler mentioned a couple episodes ago. Like, sometimes you don't need trust, you just need plans to align. So Brady's mad at Seth. It's not me, and Tyler had both things with me and Brady. So like that, it just worked out for the 3 of us to be Seth. ideally, I think for all four of us, none of us wanted to vote any of the four of us out.
I mean, welcome to the club.
Yeah, I mean, there are some times, and I'm sure you've experienced this, there are times where you're on tribes with people and you like them as people, but you're like, yeah, this person needs to go. Like, we need to vote this person out for my game to advance.
I think the only time I've ever felt that way is when the other person was actually writing my name down at the same time.
Yeah, or like when you get into a merge situation and you see two clear alliances and you're like, okay, I like these people in this other alliance, but like they have to go for my game to progress. For me, in this round, the four of us, I did not need any of those three to go for my game to advance. Ideally, for me, the four of us move forward, staying as strong as we were, because I did feel we were very strong. But I can't speak for the other three people. That's just what my perspective was at the time. Because again, I'm very like, let's build trust strongly.
So at Tribal Council, I guess Brady gets points to the episode title because Brady's apparently playing spiders in everyone's pillows.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was interesting, and we can hear this from Seth, is how do we handle equity in a game like Survivor? And I don't feel like there is not a good easy answer to that. In fact, Survivor itself is very, maybe I would say, opposed to it in a sense. Yeah. Or at least like those. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
I had this discussion with my best friend. Again, Nathan, I've mentioned him twice now. Because after the episode, when we were talking about how we like felt about the episode, he said to me, he was like, I don't know how I feel about people using demographics as reasonings to vote people or to not vote people. And I don't think that that's what was happening. And I explained this to him. I don't think there was a single vote that happened in this entire season. You and I know what happens the rest of the season. We haven't seen the episodes, but I don't think that there was a single vote that was determined this season based on demographics. I think what is happening is people are constantly checking potential subconscious bias or making sure that their reasonings are game only. And I think that's fair. I think some people do that internally. Some people do that externally. Some people discuss it externally to make sure that everyone is considering it. That's my perspective on it. I think Seth discussing it externally is just like, yeah, this is something that we have to make sure we're paying attention to. This is not going to determine a vote. At least that's my perspective, is that that's not going to determine a vote, but it is something that we need to look at.
I think you addressed it nicely.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I didn't discuss it externally because when Seth is talking about it externally, it's something that I'm examining internally. Like, making sure, like, am I voting this person out because of game reasons? Yes. Cool. We're good. I think it's a great discussion to have because I think that there are certain seasons of CBS Survivor that maybe could have benefited from that discussion. Millennials versus Gen X, to name one. Anyways, I don't know. I think it's a great discussion. I think it's something that people need to be talking about and thinking about.
Anything else about Tribal Council that you want to bring up?
Brady's voting confessional was great. Now that we know the context to it, because in the episode, you're kind of like, oh.
It was like, wow, that's a really strong reaction.
Yeah. She says, the knife that you used to stab me in the back is the same knife I'm using to cut ties with you in this game. Woo!
Yeah.
And then we see when the votes are read, immediately I jump up and I'm like, Hug, you have to come back from Redemption Island. Because I knew that if Seth came back, he would 100% still be loyal to me. Because Seth is a very logical person and he knows, like, yeah, decisions have to be made. The four of us are tight, but one of us has to go. So for me, I was very much rooting for Seth to come back from Redemption.
We get a bunch of the voting confessionals at the very end of the episode. I think the only thing that stood out is you only see a small portion of mine, and so a large portion is edited out.
Do you remember the rest?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember. Basically, like, I say the tune of, I'm voting Rachel because I believe both Little Matt and John have me other number ones, and I want to move forward deep in the game with them, and that's why I'm making this decision. And so I'm very clear, like, and like, I appreciate Casey not bringing it because that would be very wrong. I was nowhere near John's number one at the time, but John did a great job making me feel that way that round.
Yeah, being blindsided is rough. It seems like probably the two of us should have had the opposite thought processes this round at camp, where I'm confident in my allies and you're paranoid. But unfortunately, it was not the strongest round, maybe, for either of us.
Like, paranoia is nice, but what can you do when you have nothing to base actively? John was like, if you think of the signals that you want in a good ally, John was giving me everything I could ask for as someone who was interested in me and was invested in me and wanted to work and go further. He was giving me all the textbook things, right? And I just, again, like, Little Matt was also like, it was giving me all the things, and your Rachel is like, things are a little shaky. I'm lying to her face, she's lying to my face, we're all lying to each other, right? But like, but for both John and Matt, like, I felt very comfortable. And, with the tribe of 4, you just need 2 and extra votes, right? And so that was, I essentially misjudged John grossly, and I paid the cost.
And it's unfortunately, it sucks because that's how the game works. And as a viewer, before you've played these types of games, you're like, yeah, it's the game. Like, that's how it works. And then experiencing it is something completely different because so many more emotions are brought into it. And yeah, I don't know. Before we get into some of these logistics with Bloomy points and stuff, there is a lot of speculation that we are getting a merge next.
I thought we merged at 5. Didn't we just say that?
Right. I just want to do maybe sort of an overview. We're at final 10 of an 18-person season. Maybe an overview of some things that are going on, because what we've seen in the past episodes, the past 3 episodes, is just what's being contained within the individual tribes. So we have me, Brady, and Tyler. Me and Brady have the thing with Danny that Danny may or may not want to continue with. Danny says that they want to play the middle. We have Mackenzie laying out kind of her ideal majority alliance. We have Kim changing number 1 allies every episode. We have not gotten much from Daddy Matt at all recently. Since the swap, we really haven't gotten much from him. We have John and Rachel being super tight, with Little Matt being left out of a vote. I think we have a lot of fun dynamics. Were a merge to happen, were a merge not to happen. I think that
Casey does not believe in next time on Bloomington.
I think all 3 tribes have super spicy dynamics. If we are to stay in our current tribes, so
if your tribe goes to tribal council again, Tyler likely goes home.
Yeah. Likely.
If Yellow Tribe goes to tribal council, likely Matt goes home.
Likely.
If Red Tribe goes to tribal council, I can see Danny likely flipping on Kim.
Well, we see Mackenzie is kind of iffy on Kim. Mackenzie says, like, basically to summarize, like, Kim's a good ally. She's loyal, but she likes to spoil plans a little bit. And we don't really know where Daddy Matt's at.
But I will say, I have played games with people who've done very successfully telling people who are going home they're going home, and that can win a lot of allies and brownie points for juries. Like, having that knowledge and saying, like, you were the one person who told me the truth and I could trust, and you were there with me at the very end. Like, I've seen that win major points with juries.
It's true, but we don't know when jury's starting, so.
I'm not on it yet. There's no that's just straight to redemption with you, and the redemption logistics, right? So, like, I get voted out, I go in a back trail kind of in the forest, and I sit there and I wait, and I hear your tribal council going, I see people go vote, and Seth gets voted out, and then the 2 of us together go to redemption at the same time.
Okay. I'm interested to see how redemption may play out. Interested to see what happens next.
It's all a game of keys. I can tell you that much.
Not for me, apparently. I'm still sitting at 1 key.
So, Drew, I think we should talk about your favorite episode, because a quote from the episode, because I know you were debating it when we started.
Yeah, I just remembered Brady's voting confessional, so I'm gonna go with Brady's voting confessional for this. The knife that you used to stab me in the back is the same knife I'm using to sever ties with you. I think was very creative. I don't know, to your knowledge, was she quoting something, or was that just Brady? Yeah, because I don't recognize that quote from anywhere. So good for her. I thought that was great. I also like Rachel's tribal council quote where she says, "Do you want to play an easy game or do you want to play an admirable game?"
I'm giving mine to Tyler for his voting confessional of onions have layers, ogres have layers. In this game, I am an ogre. I mean, what? I was just like, oh.
I think he's trying to say that he's an ogre and Seth is the onion, so he's eating Seth.
I mean, my favorite thing is he says it and he kind of talks to me. He's just like, I don't know if that came out right. It's like he immediately kind of like rethinks, like, should I have said it like that? I don't know.
Tyler is so fun to watch. I love watching Tyler because sometimes we get these clips from Tyler, like we get in episode 1, like I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to believe in the heart of the cards and stuff like that's really funny. And then we get these like random, like nonsensical things where it's like, onions have layers and ogres have layers and I'm an ogre. It's like it's so funny. I am excited to continue watching Tyler. I think, let me double check real quick. Tyler, I believe, has the most confessionals. Yes, Tyler has the most confessionals. Still.
I can't feel bad about this episode where I have one confessional, but I have a lot of screen time regardless. So
yeah, you have a really long.
My favorite thing. So my favorite song, music choice from season 5, All Stars, is Adam's tribal council music, and I was very ecstatic that I got his tribal council music for my vote outs, and so that was. That I really appreciate that, Casey. So thank you again. I was like, if I'm going out, I'm gonna have some good music to go out to.
I think Casey knocked this episode out of the park. I think the suspense of your tribal council and like not knowing who's going the whole time was great. I think what was caught on camera from our tribe was fantastic in setting up is it Brady? Is it Seth? Whereas every episode leading up to now, the viewer assumes that Tyler would go here because we keep hearing Drew and Brady are close. Seth is the third. So I think that this was a great episode strategically to watch unfold. I think the music choices were great. I think the music choice during the challenge is so funny. I love it.
Indulge me a bit. What was your reaction to seeing what happened in the Yellow Tribe?
In terms of you being voted out?
Yeah. Me, Rachel there, me gone.
I think my assumption was, because we hear, I don't remember who says it. When we had gotten to that challenge, the tug of war challenge, Rachel and I were standing beside each other because our mats were beside each other. And Rachel looked at me and she was like, I'm terrified. Like, I'm terrified of going next. And I whispered to her, I'm like, there are keys and advantages hidden at camp. Because I had found one the round prior from Jamie. Yeah. So I tell Rachel to look for those. I think my assumption seeing you gone was, oh, Rachel found something.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing what happens next week.
Let's do Bloomy Points.
All right. Do you want me to start or do you want to kick us off?
I think I have mine pretty locked down. Do you have yours locked in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go for it, Steven. I feel like I talk a lot, so you start.
Should I do honorable mention afterwards or the start?
You decide.
So my honorable mention is going to be Mackenzie. Mackenzie's challenge advantage was, even though she's like, they just kicked it a little bit, that was such a critical thing to have played here and change the outcome for this round for her. She did not have to go to tribal council as a result. And so both challenge advantages for those who get them next year certainly can make a huge difference. And I wish she'd used it earlier, but it was a great play on her part to finally use it and use it to great extent.
I would also like to point out that because Mackenzie used that and they won the challenge, Kim has yet to be eligible to be voted for. And we are now going into episode 7 of the season. And Kim has not been eligible to be voted for yet.
But my 1 point of the week is going to go to Tyler. I know we've discussed Tyler's strategy a lot. I was shocked to see how easily Tyler slid through this round and finally pick up some allies as a result with both you and Brady. And I'm curious to see how that continues to evolve. And I felt of the people in your tribe, Brady was under fire, Seth was under fire. You were feeling very uncomfortable, noticeably so. I thought Tyler came out looking the best.
I also give my 1 point to Tyler.
That's the original.
I think that, my honorable mention was Brady for being able to keep calm this round despite her name being out and being able to manage that situation with Seth well. But Tyler, I think, did very well socially this round. He bonded with both me and Brady separately, which I think is very important because I think had he bonded with me and Brady together, me and Brady are just like, oh yeah, Tyler's our third. But you hear me say that I want Tyler to be my number 1. Again, I'm pretty sure I misspoke there, but we see Tyler and I bonding. We see Tyler and Brady bonding when Tyler should have been a pretty easy vote there. Another thing, I said it earlier, I think Tyler might be a little delusional, and I love delusion. I'm a delusional person in this game. Tyler, Marshawn, very delusional players, and those are the players I love.
For 2 points, I'm going to go with Rachel. I think Rachel was in a very unenviable, awful position of being in a clear minority, especially after having Melanie vote out the round before. And, I think winning over John, giving him her key to really solidify things and getting through that round, that's such a huge victory. It's unlike such a small tribe where there's nowhere to run and hide, and to not make mistakes in the process. And so I thought Rachel played that around well and had, as we said, a really good confessional, really, really good statements at Tribal. I think Rachel came out looking very strong.
I also gave Rachel my 2 points.
I'm still glad I went first because we're going to do the same for the 3
yeah,
points.
Yeah, we are. And I had mine written down as proof. But I don't think that Rachel had a ton of control in this round. But I think Rachel had a lot of good gameplay. She did everything that she was supposed to from a game standpoint. I just think that she presented herself very well at Tribal. I think that her having access to the original Chaos members, we know that she and Kim were very close. Plus now having this in with John, who through John has ends with Daddy Matt, Mackenzie. I think that Rachel has set herself up very well in this round, in addition to all the things that you had said about her. Her Tribal Council performance also was outstanding.
And for 3 points, to the shock of no one, I think you and I are both going to go with John here.
John, yeah.
I've already, despite being voted out by him and therefore very unhappy with it, I can't fault him. I thought we'll have to see down the road whether the keys would have been better used in a different situation. But he took out the person who had his bounty. He solidified an ally who is on the other tribe. He made it. We've seen this before. John can take really good, decisive, calculated risks, and this was one of them. And I had no idea this was coming. He did a great job making me feel comfortable and being really willing to go with him far in the game.
Basically everything you said is what I was going to say. My 3 points go to John as well. I think the only downsides that John has right now, just to play devil's advocate, I think the only downsides for John's game right now are that we don't know how Little Matt is going to react to this. And then we have heard me say on multiple occasions that John is a target of mine, but it doesn't really matter what I think because there's clearly already been a group formed that I'm not involved in. So
Are you the delusional or realistic side?
Listen, I am the captain of the delusional tribe, and I stand by it. I love being delusional. I love watching delusion unfold, and I love it. I think John has set himself up pretty well. I mean, Mackenzie is building her empire over on Red right now, and with she and John being so actively working together, I think that is definitely a group of people to look out for, especially from my perspective. But of course, I don't know any of this is going on in game. So I think that'll be very fun to watch. I think John had a fantastic round, played the advantage perfectly. I think he played it probably at the right time. I mean, if he's trying to save Rachel, then he pulled off his goal. So good round for John. Great round.
So we can't spoil anything, even though we know what happens, but I'll ask you this. Who do you think gives the title to episode next week?
Knowing what I know, who gets the episode title next week? Oh, that's a hard one. Oh my gosh, Steven, I don't know. Danny.
Danny was my backup. I'm gonna go. I think we're gonna get it from Kim maybe. But I think Danny. If not Danny, I'll say my third place would be Big Matt.
The only quote that I remember from being in the real time comes from Danny.
Okay.
So,
yeah, unfortunately, I did not hear any of this, or did I? We'll have to find out.
So, yeah, I.
Well, Casey doesn't know either. So,
Casey, when are you going to give yourself an episode? Well, I think actually, technically, Casey does have an episode title because Bananagate. I think Casey is the first person to say Bananagate. So, because I did not count that as a me episode title because I never say Bananagate until after other people say it.
Is it a cardinal sin for the host to give himself the episode title? Because Jeff Probst does this on occasion, doesn't he?
Casey, you should get it. Give it to yourself or to Ethan.
We trust you, Casey. You won't lead us astray.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this week's episode, this coming episode. I think it'll be fun. I think more than any other episode, there has been a lot of speculation in my discussions with viewers of what's going to happen. Will the tribe stay the same? Will it be a merge? Will it be a swap? Will it be Redemption Island? Time will tell. Steven, who is your rooting interest now that you can't root for yourself? Well, I guess you can root for yourself because you're not out of the game. So.
Me, I will say at this point in Redemption, everyone is very high on Kim.
Yep.
At this point, Kim and Matt are the only two locals left in the game, and there is a lot of positivity and people really rooting for Kim.
Okay. We'll see what happens. Kim is still my bounty, so I'm probably not rooting for Kim. But again, doesn't really matter because I can't vote her out. So thanks everyone so much for watching. Steven, anything before we head out for the evening?
Survivor Maryland premiered, and I need to watch it.
It was so good. It was so funny. I was laughing the entire time.
All right.
So good.
In all my spare time, I will finally get to it. I'm still juggling Outlast. I mean, if I could, okay, Drew, how can I complain about my experience when there's a tribe that goes from 6 to 2? They
That's
lose.
fair.
They
Yeah.
go 4 times in a row. You're just like, oh my gosh, so brutal. And the first two, mild spoilers for Outlast. First 2 times, the majority takes the minority. Next round, a person says, hey, I want the rest of you to go further. And then they lose it again. And it's just like, oh, this is painful.
Yes, there are a lot of shows going on right now. In the LRG world, just off the top of my head, we have Survivor Pennsylvania, we have Maryland, we have Michigan, we have Outlast, we have Angelica, we have obviously Bloomington. I mean, CBS Survivor's gearing up. Australian Survivor has been fantastic this season. Cannot recommend that enough. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us at Live Reality Games. Thank you, Amy, Valencia, Daddy Matt, Melanie, Casey, for being active in the chat. Love seeing the chat active. Until next time, make sure you subscribe to Surviving Bloomington on YouTube. The next episode will come out this coming Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, if you want to play one of these games, I know quite a few games are casting right now. Go to the LRG casting Instagram or Facebook page. Melanie actually runs those. So reach out to her if you have any questions. Subscribe to Live Reality Games on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all the places. And Steven and I will be back next week at some point, joined by, spoiler alert, Surviving Bloomington Season 5 winner, Jordan. So we will see
Get excited.
Yes, get excited. We will see you then.
All right. Take care, everyone.